If you're not going to have kids, you better have a damn good reason. There are evolutionarily placed algorithms in your brain. If you do things that it wants, you will get this slow release feel good. It's what I call fulfillment. If you do things that are fulfilling, and ironically or not, hard work is a part of what I consider to be nature's recipe for fulfillment. If you don't work hard, it won't work. You'll never get fulfillment. Nature needed to make sure you were willing to work hard because life was hard for millennia.
The children of very wealthy people who don't have to work hard for their wealth, these are not happy people.
1000%.
You can dissolve a human by giving them too many resources without requiring effort.
Preach.
You know, mid to late 20s and 30s. If there were a biological clock in men, it would be those years, not because of lack of reproductive potential, but lack of generative drive potential, because there's a feedback loop on it. Like, I'm approaching 50, and I'm not saying this, you know, as a boast. I put a lot of work into the working out and the sunlight and the thing and the researching, and I work a ton, probably not as much as you, Tom, but a ton, and I feel better now than I did in my 30s, probably because I take better care. Now, am I more prone to injury? Probably, and these kinds of things, but I'm stronger now. My endurance is better. My thinking process is sharper.
For sure.
And so I don't subscribe to this idea that it's a downhill slope.
Certainly is
provided
not
you
for me.
put the work in early. Now, if somebody's in their mid to late 40s and they're hearing this, I still think you can catch some of the wave, but I think it's harder. I really do, and I think that you can do it, but it's very important that you understand that you better have something where you are investing over long periods of time. Now, people with families will immediately say, that thing is called kids. Well, and then I say, well, yes, applause to you, because you are fulfilling your evolutionary
Nature
obligation.
is so happy with you.
Or request, evolutionary request to do this. So they're very happy with you. So I'm not saying that this has to come just from profession. You know, the things are related because families require resources. And so on and so forth. So
I always tell people, if you're not going to have kids, you better have a damn good reason. And I don't have kids, but I'm hyper aware that I have to account for that because it's what nature wants me to do. And so if I'm not going to do it, then I better find what the thing is that's going to give me meaning and purpose and all of that.
In contrast to the conversation we had a few years ago when we sat down here, we are now in a place where everyone is realizing social media, wonderful, but has these real traps in it. First, we heard about the traps for mostly adolescent girls, Jonathan Haidt's work and so forth. Now we're hearing about the plight of boys and men. You know, I mean, the New York Times just ran this thing about what boys and men need as opposed to what's wrong with them. They talked a little bit about what's wrong with them, but now they're entering the discussion about what they need. You know, how are we going to get functioning members of society that are men to catch up? Well, I think that it's the process of learning, like long-term investment. And it's funny because earlier I was asking you, like, what are your thoughts on crypto and investing? This is an area I'm really, wise to. It's kind of the same thing, right? You hear this from Warren Buffett, right? That you've got to play the long game. Like, especially with crypto, right? That thinking you can just get in and make a few bucks, you could probably do that. You could flip, but it's very hard to predict. It's very volatile.
5% of the wallets make 95% of the money. Good luck.
Is that right?
Yeah. Like, if you don't know how to invest, if you are not doing it around the clock, if you do not have a proven track record, then just be in the market for a very long time. Be broad, assume you know nothing, and just play a very long, and I'm talking like a 25-year game. Don't try to make your money off of some crazy shitcoin. Like, this one breaks my heart. Economically, we have done the world a lot of dirt, and we are forcing them to gamble with assets. Long story that my audience will be very familiar with. But it's play the long game or you're toast.
Do you think that the crypto market and world is starting to resemble some of the OnlyFans-like contour of kind of like the allure, like come hither,
No, I think what it is hijacking the similar, like, okay, I know how especially the male brain works. You're trying to get access to females. Females respond to resources. So, hey, you don't understand why the financial system's broken, but you can feel something's wrong. And so now you just want to get rich as fast as you can because everything's out of reach. Come to this thing, and it's hijacking the gambling circuit. So I'm sure, like so much of them, you've talked about this. I literally learned this from you. But nature doesn't reinvent the circuitry. It's just recycling it. So I suppose in that way it is similar to OnlyFans, but it's what it attracts is gamblers. I learned this the hard way. So crypto is all about gambling. It's an asset class, so if you know how to do it well, I think Bitcoin is real in terms of it will function more like a normal asset, like either an equity or gold. We'll see how it plays out in the long run. But it works as You can think of it like gold. You can think of it like an equity. Either way, it's going up in value, but don't try to day trade is basically my punchline there. But the get rich quick side of crypto is also very real. And whatever gambling speaks to, it speaks to that.
I have a friend, his name is Ryan Suave, and he's an expert in the addiction treatment world. He's trauma treatment as well. And he's worked with a lot of different types of addicts. And he told me once that the hardest addiction to break is gambling addiction, because in his words, the next one really could change it all. But then he told me something, I just want your reflections on it because I can't wrap my mind around this. He said, the crazy thing is, after gambling addicts have been at it for a long while and they've gone through their cycles of destruction and often replenishment again and then destruction, they say they start getting addicted to losing, which I cannot understand except from the perspective of perhaps it's an opportunity to win again. But
is it cutting? I mean, that's about the only thing.
Yeah, I mean,
can
maybe
imagine.
they're self-loathing and to start out with, or maybe there's some sort of weird inversion of the pain pleasure relationship with dopamine. We know that pain taps into the dopamine pathway. Maybe they're so
the
hard pressed.
Sensation of pain or actual pain?
Yeah, pain.
Whoa.
Actual pain. I mean, so maybe it's that their dopamine is so depleted from kind of winning, losing that they now, like, pain is the only thing that will do it. I don't know, but I think,
That's dark.
and I believe him, there's something in that statement that if it's even a tiny bit true, might ratchet back to what we were talking about earlier related to the relationship between porn, OnlyFans, masturbation, this feeling of shame, this feeling of, oh, like, what a waste of my time, of my money, of energy. I mean, the shame spiral is a real thing in addicts. It's something that repeats itself over and over again. And this is why they always say, you know, addicts are most susceptible to relapse when they're at their peak of feeling great and whether at their bottom of feeling like absolute garbage.
That makes sense.
You know, again, these circuitries are, they're as you pointed out, they're wired for us to progress as a species. In order for our species to progress, not everyone has to win, and a lot of people can lose. Sometimes that's all I need to hear to remind myself that I want to be like in the winning lane.
Yes, please.
And what that requires these days more than anything is not participating in a ton of behaviors. It's so much more nowadays about what you choose to opt out of.
Facts.
You know, and so when David Goggins says, you know, nowadays it's so much easier, or even easy, although I think easier is a perhaps more accurate way to put it, to be extraordinary, I think it's really mostly about what you don't do, what you're not doing with your time and energy. And so
That's part of it. As an entrepreneur, I'll say to anybody out there that wants to shine in this era, all you have to do is work like you're from the 80s. Like, period. There was another Gen Xer. We were like laughing our asses off. I mean, forgive me for anybody that's had to do it, but it's like when people are like, I need a mental health day. It's like, the fuck is that? I'm not saying mental health is not a real thing. It is. I'm saying you need to have a relationship with your own mind where you are in control. And I find people, like in the modern era, people just do not know how to get in control of their own minds. That is wild to me. I don't know if it's just coming up. You're staring at a wall for like 80% of your life. And so you've got to find a way internally to get control of that process, to not be bored out of your mind or whatever, or the way that our parents raised us. I don't know, man. Work ethic really is rare. Like, and it's just looked at differently.
There was a time, people will be shocked to hear, but where if you missed your ex, if you pined for your ex, guess what? You couldn't know what they were doing. You couldn't text them. And thank goodness, because guess what you did? You went out and you did other things.
Yeah.
You didn't obsess about the relationship that you had like 2 years ago, you know, sussing out what they're doing or wondering if you this or that. Like, you just moved forward. Yeah. You had no choice but to either stay still or move forward. I have a question. You sold your company for $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
There have been a few instances on X and on Reddit where I've been kind of pulled into a conversation around somebody will sell their company for a ton of money and they'll come out publicly and say, you know, I feel suicidal. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm super unhappy. I mean, everything we've set up until this point perfectly explains why that is. They were on a cycle of striving. That's where the dopamine was coming from. Now they've got the reward and like video game is over and they don't know what to do. And they aren't quite at the point where, and of course, as dopamine goes up, which inevitably happens on the day they see all that money in their bank account, it goes down in a proportional decrease, you know, below baseline. It takes some time to come back up. So there's just a matter of time. But then, of course, it's a daunting thing if it took you, how long did it take you to build Question?
If you count the company before it, which allowed us to fund it, 12 years.
Okay, so let's go for another 12 years, and yet you did that. So I'm interested, did you have a kind of postpartum, as they call it, kind of depression?
Literally not even a little bit.
So did you celebrate your win?
Sort of. The team never would have known what day we sold on because it was, I went to work like normal. My wife and I got in a fight over it.
Oh, really?
Because she's like, okay, what do you want to do now? Because it was like happened early in the morning, and we
Yeah.
had the call where it's like 18 bankers and confirm, because they're literally going to push a button. It's going to send you a lot of commas and zeros. And so they do it, boom, money hits. You're sitting there, refresh on your banking app. It hits. You're like, holy hell. And we actually took a photo of the moment where it like hit. And I've got my fist up in the air, and I'm like, oh my God, like we're actually rich. This is wild. She was like, okay, what are we doing now? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm going to work. She was very surprised. And then when I left Quest, like left last day was a Monday. Impact Theory, I started the next day on Tuesday. So I didn't take a day off. And the reason is because I learned the lesson about money back at the company before that. So we'd started a company called Awareness Tech. And I thought that's what was going to make me rich. Ended up being totally miserable. Long story. I end up like, I go in and quit. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is like a nightmare. They pull me back and are like, listen, we're unhappy too, but what are we going to need to do to stay together? Outline what ends up becoming Quest. And so that becomes the thing that keeps us all together, was the thing that we would do, and it wasn't about money. That was me going, well, I'm never going to do anything again for money because I'm worth $2 million at the time, and I'm so profoundly unhappy. If I was worth $20 million, I wouldn't care. If I was worth $1 billion, I wouldn't care. I don't want to feel like this. I was like, okay, this is why people tell you that money can't buy happiness. Thankfully, I learned that in my late 20s and then didn't get wealthy until my late 30s. So I had figured out, oh, this is a game of meaning and purpose. The only thing that matters is meaning and purpose. Heard, got it. So I'll never make that mistake. So when we sold the company, I was like, the only thing that matters is pursuit. That is my drug of choice. So when I say I'm ambitious, what I mean is I always want to pursue something gigantic. And the getting it, because now I've got it, the getting it is cool, but that's going to wear off and I'm going to get used to it. We're recording this in a nice fancy house and we have guests that are staying with us. So I'm seeing it now through their eyes again. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I live in some crazy mansion. But you really, doesn't matter. Like you're going to get numb to anything. And so meaning and purpose is the only thing that's going to see you through. Like working your ass off in service of making progress, which actually is the only thing that matters. Attaining it doesn't. But making progress towards a goal that is what I call honorable. So it serves you and other people. If you're doing that, life's going to be okay. The second you stop doing that, nature is going to reach inside your brain and say, this is not good.
You managed to avoid one of the biggest traps. I mean, I grew up in Silicon Valley. I had some friends who've done incredibly well financially with companies, and they all report the same low on sale, or a health issue comes along and they realize that they've been just destroying themselves health-wise. And
they haven't watched enough of your content.
That's right.
I'm not kidding, because for real, the gift you are giving to the world is that people can actually come to understand their biology. If I can get people to understand, look, I know this feels dark when you first think about it, but you're an automata. These are all just processes that are running. But you feel very much like you're in control. Awesome. It's a great feeling. I'm glad I have it. I'm not going to abuse that. So then I'm like, I am going to be present in this body, feeling the way that this body interfaces with the world. I need to take that seriously. And so if I know that sex is awesome but momentary, relationships are hard but the greatest thing that life has to offer you, requited love is probably the right way to think about it. A family, kids, like huge emotional incentives. So don't do that at your peril. Like you have to be very careful with that. I'm always going to want to pursue no matter how much I achieve. And the way I explain that to people is you'll never have a meal so satisfying that you'll never need to eat again. You'll never have sex so good that you'll never want to have sex again, right? So you're never going to have an accomplishment so big that you don't want to pursue again. Meaning and purpose is nature's way of continuing to push you forward and make life worth living. If you don't have that, suddenly life stops being worth living. The question I used to ask myself all the time was, how many billionaires have to commit suicide before I accept that money won't be the answer? These are all knowable things. I'm just going to act in accordance.